We're live. Okay, good morning, everybody. It's the 31st of July, 10 o'clock, and this meeting is taking place virtually with the members of the board alongside with the officers who are presenting the reports, joining us online. Can I please ask that all members and officers have their microphone on mute until they wish or are invited to speak, and when you're speaking, please turn your camera on, otherwise turn it off. I have received apologies from Councillor Ellie Kelkin and Mr. Manjit Saroya and Mrs. Ruth Gilbert. Mr. Andrew Stewart is joining us today as a substitute for Manjit. Welcome, Andrew, and hopefully you enjoy the meeting. And the first item on our agenda are the minutes held on the 17th of April 24. Can we consider those minutes as correct and take them forward? It's only Richard who can second that. Richard, are you happy with that?
Yes, I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the minutes before I move on? There are none. And please note, I'm working over 3 computers with issues going on. So if I'm going wrong, bear with me. Right, item number 2 are questions times. And I have not received any questions today. And item number 3 on the agenda is to advise of any urgent items. And there have been no urgent items being forward. So we move on swiftly to item number 4, which is a declaration of interest in respect of any items on the agenda. And I see Mr. Shepherd's hand up.
Thank you.
Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you. Could I just check and ask for advice about something in item 5? It's on page 17, and it refers to excess teachers service. Now, I receive a pension from the Teachers Pensions Agency. I know there are also centrally employed teachers who are affected by the pension scheme, the LGS pension scheme. Could I just check, actually, then, have I an interest to declare or not? My pension comes from the Teachers Pensions Agency.
Chair, well, could I come in on that point? Sorry.
Please do. Please do.
It's Stuart. It's only did you have more than one job at the same time? The excess service refers to teachers that were full-time and had a part-time post as well. And those members may qualify for an excess amount under McLeod.
No, while I was a teacher, I was also a borough councillor, but had no other teaching employment, no.
Right. So it's not going to affect you, Councillor Shepherd.
Thank you for the advice. Thank you.
Right, that's it then. So swiftly we move on to the first item, substantial item on our agenda, and that starts on page 9 to page 32, and that is the Pension Fund Administration Report, April 24, quarter 1. Now it is Stuart, the pension project manager, who will introduce this item, and to please note that we haven't got Ian Howe today, so Stuart is taking most of the agenda. Thank you, Stuart. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everyone. So this is the standard quarterly report that is presented at each meeting in respect of the main administrative actions in the first quarter of the year. So I don't propose to go through absolutely everything, but we'll pick out the key elements. So we'll start with the performance indicators. So the performance of the pension section is highlighted on page 25 under Appendix B. Clearly, the figures this quarter are lower than we would like. McCloud continues to have a large impact on performance in these key areas, but we continue to work through this. We are recruiting additional staff. However, the training of these additional staff presents issues of its own and impacts on the levels of output that we can produce. So whilst we're in this transition, things continue to be challenging, but we continue to work through those. The general performance, the general workloads of the section are highlighted on page 10, 11, and 12. There's two particular areas there, both rated red, which we talked about at the previous report. And whilst this continues to be the case, we are targeting the cases within those areas that are most likely to have the biggest impact on the upcoming valuation. So we're trying to prioritise the key areas there. And again, turnover of staff continues to have an impact with those. Also, now we're in the summer holiday period as well, which will have an impact. So again, we continue to work through this, but yeah, we face one or two challenges at the moment. The next area I wanted to mention was governance general. This is point 10. So the pension section deals with complaints through the formal IDRP process, and there has been one new IDRP that's at stage 2 in this quarter. This is regarding a specific historic situation whereby the regulations at the time did not provide entitlement to partner benefits. So this case has been passed to the head of law for consideration. And there were no other changes to any earlier cases already at stage 2 in the process. Breaches. So there was one breach in the quarter. This was in respect of a transfer of pension rights overseas to a financial institution based in Canada. And the case was processed on the 28th of June, which was outside of the statutory 6-month period in which transfers must be completed. In this instance, the period expired 3 weeks prior to that. So in this particular case, it had one or two issues. The value of the transfer exceeded £100,000, and where transfers are of that level, the fund policy is to undertake additional diligence. And whilst this is normally performed by pension officers, this particular case was the first overseas transfer valued at this level since the policy was introduced. And so as an additional step, we sought legal advice externally to ensure that there were no issues with paying this. And whilst the legal advice concluded that there was no issues and that we were fine to pay this transfer, this did result in a small delay in processing the transfer. So the transfer has been paid. We did recalculate the transfer because of the slight delay, so the original value was increased. And since the payment has been made, there's been no complaints received from the scheme member nor the receiving scheme. So officers would not deem this as material, given the unique circumstances of the case. And payment was made shortly after the original expiry date. Wanted to go on to talk about the AVC framework on page 14.23. So this framework that Ian and I have been working on, along with other funds, the National LGPS Frameworks Organisation, headed up by Norfolk. This has finally gone live. It went live on the 22nd of July, and although the report refers to some current contractual issues with one of the providers, I'm pleased to report that they've now been resolved. So the provider that raised these issues is happy, and they've been added to the framework. And now this framework is in place and live, Leicestershire plan to sign up to use lot 1 of the framework, and we will begin work on this in August. So lot 1 of the framework enables the fund to review their existing AVC providers' terms and conditions, and if necessary, implement a new AVC provider. Pensions increase. So at the last board meeting, we highlighted 1 or 2 issues that we'd had this time around with the implementation of the annual pension increase. And on the 17th of April, the pensions manager formally raised the pension board's dissatisfaction with Hayward, our system supplier. We received an apology. They have offered to work with us next year to ensure that these kind of issues aren't repeated, and they'll also look at reviewing their own internal processes. So hopefully some good will come out of this. System fixes are now in place for most of the issues that are raised. There is still 1 issue that isn't fully resolved, but we're working with Hayward on that, and it's expected that this will be in place by the end of August, and we'll be looking to make the changes, the fixes, by the end of September. So this was the fix that led to approximately about 700 pensioners being underpaid, around about £4. So the amounts were low, but we do intend to resolve it, to make good the payment, and at that point we'll write to the pensioners and make them aware of the situation. Okay. There was another issue with regards to pension increase that has come up since the last meeting with regards to our deferred members. So our deferred members are members of the scheme that are no longer paying, they're no longer employed, but they have an entitlement to a pension, but it's not yet in payment. Nevertheless, we update the value of their pension each year, and they get provided with an annual benefit statement, the deadline of which is the 31st of August. And the issue that with this has basically resulted in Hayward saying, don't run this pensions increase yet, wait for the next release. So the next release is due to be rolled out in the next fortnight. So once that's in place, we will be able to run the pensions increase and make sure that the statements are issued, if not by the 31st of August, but very close after the deadline. And that's the latest position with that. That all still seems to be on track, and there's no particular concerns that have presented itself since this report was written. With McLeod, just really wanted to highlight the impact that McLeod is having on the KPIs. If you turn to page 31, Appendix D, then you'll see how the KPIs for retirements and pensions have dropped since the remedy, the McLeod remedy, came into effect. So initially the effect was felt on the work we do to calculate initial pension options at the point of retirement. And over time, because we were spending more resource on that area of work, the impact began to be felt on the other areas as officers had less time to spend on those areas. So We are going through a recruitment process at the moment, which has resulted in internal staff being promoted, and then a further process taking place to replace those officers. We're almost there with recruitment. We are currently in an exercise to recruit some temporary pension assistant roles to replace the temporary staff that were working on McLeod, and who have recently been made permanent. So the intention is that once these people are in place and that they've had sufficient training, that we should see some increase in the KPI levels. The annual report changes I won't go into particularly, as this is covered elsewhere in the agenda. Nothing huge to report on dashboards this time. Year end, everything is on track. The report highlights 2 exceptions, but as of today, we're down to 1 exception, as Relish has been sorted. BAM Facilities Management are the remaining employer. They've sent revised data since this report was written, and we're currently working through that. So the exercise is on track, and we're confident of meeting the statutory deadline to issue the benefit statements by the end of August. Employer risk, just wanted to highlight the couple of high risk areas on page 20 that the report refers to. Coombs Catering, as yet they've not signed their admission and bond documents. It was expected by the 31st of July. So far that hasn't come in. And with ABM, there's been a slight update on the report. ABM have signed their admission agreement. We're still waiting for Leicester City Council on that one. With both of these cases, assuming that the deadline passes today, we do have the option to now start charging these employers for the additional time that we spend chasing and trying to resolve these cases. So that's something that we'll be looking at very closely over the next week or so. That was really all I wanted to talk about on the report, but happy to take any questions on what I've gone through or anything at all.
Well, thank you very much, Stuart. As always, extremely comprehensive. I did have a couple of questions, but you've answered them in your additional rhetoric. Okay. So if there are no questions from members, I'm just looking if there are any hands up. Please note the recommendation on page 21, I believe it is. We have considered the report and it will be forwarded to the local pension committee. And I'm looking, Richard, nobody. No, hey, Stuart, you got away lightly. Well done. Good report again. Thank you. Oh, one quick question. You just said the people who have got outstanding will be charged. Are they aware of that? Will they be written to?
They will, yes. We've got a template knocked up and ready to go to point out that this is in line with the admin and comms strategy that the fund has, and they will have had sight of. So it's nothing that's completely going to be out of the blue. But yes, we will write to them first.
Oh, well, good, because, you know, it's ridiculous for big organizations like that to be lagging behind. Okay, without further ado, I thank you very much for report number 5. And we are now going to go to page 33 to 146, which is the fund annual reports and accounts 23 to 2024. And our senior finance analyst, Bhulesh Katja will introduce this report. And thank you very much, Bhulesh. Nice to see you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. So the purpose of this is to seek the board's comments on the annual report and accounts of the pension fund for the year ending 23-24. A bit of background here. There's a statutory requirement for the annual report and accounts to be available on or before the 1st of December, following a scheme year end for us, which is the 31st of March. The accounts are in the process of being audited, and the board and committee will be updated at the earliest opportunity on the opinion given by the auditor once this process has been completed. So that's totally normal at this point in the year. Any comments from this board meeting will be considered by the pension committee, and they next meet on the 6th of September. Moving on to points 4 to 8, which summarises a number of new additional reporting requirements for the first time. So in May 2024, SAB, that's a Scheme Advisory Board, and CIPFA, and the Department of Levelling Up Housing Communities, which is now MHCLG again, produced revised guidance to assist the LGPS with the preparation and publication of pension fund accounts and reports. It is expected that funds use best endeavours as a basis to comply with this new guidance, but exercise judgment where to do so would require disproportionate effort or cost. Point 6 in the report explains the 3 categories of proposed changes. So there was a whole list of changes, and they categorised them as a must, a should, or a may. Now, must, obvious compliance is strongly expected, and any non-compliance should be clearly identified in the report. Should, similarly, compliance is anticipated but discretionary, and again, if you don't, then non-compliance you should be explained in the report, and may, obviously, recommended but is discretionary. So officers have followed the guidance as far as possible and have met the majority of the must and the should requirements. The 3 areas where we believe as officers non-compliance exists, you can read those out there, the 3 bullet points at point 8. So a number of revised administration key performance indicators have been added to the report following SAB's recommended layout. Not all of these tables are able to be included given the fund's workload tasks are not set up to report on certain activities. The fund has liaised with SAB, and a SAB officer appreciated the limitations and agreed the fund's existing KPIs could be included in this section. It is accepted this may remain the case for the future years until system workflow tasks are nationally agreed with standard reporting features. The next one, regarding investment performance, net of fees for 12 months corresponding to the accounting period for each fund manager or asset class must be reported alongside an appropriate benchmark chosen by the authority, and the choice of benchmark must be stated. Benchmarks should not change from year to year, and if a new benchmark is adopted, there must be an explanation given. Benchmark names, however, are not allowed under the fund's current contract to be shared publicly. To rectify this, officers will liaise with the investment performance management provider, in our case that's Simons Robertson, to reach a cost-effective solution for next year. I'd like to note, though, at this point that this information is provided to committees each quarter and is part of the exempt reports. Lastly, the third point, the guidance sets out that the fund should indicate how it is responding to the SAB's Code of Transparency. Steps should be taken by the fund to fully review this position and encourage compliance by investment managers. Presently, around 65% of the fund's investment managers, we've got about 23 managers, are signed up to the scheme. However, it should be noted that the majority of investment managers provide cost information. So this includes the annual management fee, the transaction costs, and the performance costs, or fees rather, for each of our mandates to the fund through the CTI, that's the Cost Transparency Initiative. So it is included, and we use that data to support the accounting underlying costs within the reports. That's all I've got to say, so I'm happy to take any questions at this stage.
Thank you very much for that, Bhulesh. That's quite a comprehensive report and a lot of pages for me to wade through. No hands up, Bulesh, and you've also got away lightly. Can I ask one more time? Are there any questions to Bulesh, or do we note the report? Bulesh, we note the report and we thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I assume that that is, oh, hang on, we need to approve that report. No, this report is to be noted. Report noted, and we're going over to item number 7. Now, that is the Local Pension Board Annual Report 23-24. It starts on pages 147, which is up to me to present. And without further to-do, give me a chance. Do you want me to read it out, or do you want to take it as read? Because it is quite explanatory, and it is, my foreword is on the first page of the report ending 31st of March 24. The next page on the report, it is what the Local Pension Board is, with a structure set out at the bottom of the page. We are then going on to the members of the board and members' attendance. We are raising highlights, business plan and budgets, the report and the accounts, issues of concern, and training. The report then goes on into the modules, which we have done. And once we agree this report, it will be moved to the pension committee. So can I have a seconder for that? Richard, thank you for seconding.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question, if I may, please? Yes.
Oh, please.
Yes, thank you.
Please
it refers to page 157 of the report. It's a matter I discussed with Angie yesterday, actually. It's to do with the Hyman's training for 2023-2024. I'm just going to ask, if I may, through you, if Angie could just, for the sake of all of us really, just repeat the advice she gave me about S&P and so on, because I see that I'm down as S throughout 2023-24, meaning subscribed but not actually,
yes.
not actually done it. So could you just clarify this? Because I know that a number of us have had difficulty either getting Hyman's to record our training or accessing it, and I'm pleased we now have the in-person session. So if I may, don't want to sort of dump this on you, Angie, but if you could just sort of clarify what you told me yesterday, it'd be really helpful. Thank you very much.
Yes, there's a paragraph just before the tables under Hyman's Aspire Learning Training, whereby when they changed the modules in June 2023, they didn't carry across completed modules undertaken by members. Since then, but not included in this report because they didn't commence till April 2024, we've been holding in-person sessions, and these are being recorded and will be shown in next year's annual report, that members are undertaking Hyman's training. It's just for the purposes of this report, from June 23 to March 24, none of the modules were recorded online, but we have started to do them in person and they are being recorded.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So, and I assume you're seconding it, Councillor Shepherd?
Yes, I will do. Thank you.
Thank you. So that means the board approved the annual report for 23-24. And I take it as agreed. But before moving on to item 8, I again would like, which I've also raised in my foreword, but I must put it on record again, our support to the pension manager and the staff. I think all of the staff have been extremely outstanding, and I'm sure all of the members of this board will join me in thanking them, because they have had quite a hard time, as we've heard from Stuart in his previous presentation. So
Yes,
thank you.
I agree.
Thank you very, very much. We now move on to item number 8 on the agenda, which is on pages 159 to 340, and that is the Regulator's Code of Practice. Now, again, it is Stuart who is taking that report, and over to you, Stuart. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is to summarise Fund Officer's initial view of compliance in respect of the regulator's General Code of Practice. There are a number of criteria which funds must comply with to satisfy the requirements of the code, and this report basically lists our initial findings across all areas. There are 15 different categories within the code, although there's one where there's no requirements for the LGPS funds. But we've been through these categories, and using a compliance checker tool, we've identified there's 136 different areas for assessment, and they've been split into those requirements that are regulatory requirements, TPR, the pension regulator's expectation, or best practice. And we've identified that there are 93 areas where we are fully compliant, 40 areas where we are partially, 2 areas where we aren't currently compliant, and there was 1 area that wasn't applicable. And a breakdown of the partials and non-compliant areas can be found in Appendix B, which is on page 335. We've identified that some of the areas of partial compliance are linked, and the completion of a single action is likely to result in full compliance in those in multiple areas. For example, the creation of an internal controls document. So we're keen to meet the highest level of compliance, and whilst 40 partially compliant areas and 2 non-compliant areas may appear concerning, some areas identified as partially compliant only require minor adjustments to reach full compliance. So we're just making sure, because this is a key area of work, that we haven't missed any areas, and we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's with some of these. For example, the cyber policy, we've done a fair amount of work on this over the last couple of years, but we just want to make absolutely sure that we aren't missing anything. So we're just going to take a closer look at what we currently have in place. And the priority as we work through these requirements will be given to those that the classed as the regulatory requirements, and we've allocated responsibility on the report to various officers within pensions, investments, and democratic services. What we have identified is that there are some key documents that need to be pulled together, which will go a long way to helping us achieve full compliance. I've just broke those down there. So the creation of an internal controls document, this will basically formalise what is already in place, and pull together some training notes and various documents that we already have to create one formal document that we can easily point to in the event that we're asked to demonstrate compliance. And this would include how the schemes is administered, how we separate, how we have the separation of duties, for example, between doing and checking, sign-off levels for payments, and how changes to the scheme are managed. So that feels like it's a key piece of work, and we'll be starting work on that fairly soon. We also need to pull together a transfers guide, which again, the notes are all there. It's just a case of formalising it and putting it all in one place. So hopefully most of the stuff we already have is in place. It's just, again, pulling it all together. We've touched upon the cyber policy, things like data improvement and breaches of law policy. Again, we've got documents here, and it's just a case of formalising and tightening up on one or two areas. And so the aim is to be as fully compliant in as many areas as possible by the 31st of March. We will concentrate on those regulatory requirements first and look to get those in place over the next 3 months, and then we'll focus on the remaining areas between November in March, although some areas may overlap, so it won't be strictly regulatory requirements only up until the 31st of October. This report has already been shared with internal audit, and they've already been in touch, and we're putting plans in place for an initial audit just to confirm the findings that we've gone through today. And again, we'll mention that in a future report just to confirm their findings. And this report will also be presented to the Pension Committee at their next meeting in September, and then we'll provide a final update at the end of the tax year after March 2025. And we'll look to include an update to the board in the areas of improvement appendix at each meeting. So that was pretty much what I wanted to say. So again, happy to take any questions on this.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And again, hundreds of pages of very comprehensive work. And now, no concerns, and the report is noted because we know you are very diligent. Now, the only thing I need to ask on a personal basis is on page 335, a first item, expectation of a chair, and the skill and behaviours. It is red. Now, I don't like that. So what can we do to change that in the very near future? Any recommendations? It's a first item on page,
yes.
The red one, under best practice.
It is, yeah. I think that was something that Angie was going to take away and consider with her colleagues.
We're currently writing up roles for the chair of pension board and committee.
Okay, I will discuss that with Angie after the meeting and see how we can get that at least to a yellow. Thank you, Stuart. Okay, that report is noted. There are no questions from anybody. This is good today. Moving swiftly on to item 9, which is the final substantive report, and that is risk management and internal controls on page 341 to 355. And it is Stuart again. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is just to let the board know of any changes relating to risk management and internal controls of the fund, as stipulated in the Code of Practice. So we just really wanted to highlight changes that have been made to the risk register in the last quarter. So they're on page 342 and 343. The first one highlighted is where if the pension fund fails to receive accurate and timely data from employers, that the annual benefit statements could be incorrect or late. And the risk scores on this area have remained the same. We haven't changed the risk scores, but we have added an update to reflect the additional control of monitoring employers that change payroll systems. So that's now been included in the risk register. The second area was related to concerns around investment decisions that are made without sufficient expertise in these areas to enable members to properly assess risks and returns. And following on from the Pension Committee's approval of the revised training policy on the 19th of November, the list of current controls has been updated to reflect that members must complete the online training within 6 months of appointment. So the risk scores, again, have remained the same there. And then the final change related to transfer outs, and the risk covers where checks have not been completed fully. There may be bad advice challenges against the fund. There are some challenges being lodged from claims management companies on historic transfers out. And this one has been updated to reflect the issue around McLeod, as there's a likelihood that some of the cases may now have to be manually calculated to reflect the changes as a result of the McLeod remedy. And as a result of this, the likelihood of the risk has increased to 4, increasing the current risk score to 8, and changing the risk response from tolerate to treat. And then just to add that to mitigate for some risk, McLeod calculations can be completed. Some McLeod calculations can be completed using an LGA template, keeping the residual risk score at 6. So those were the only changes since the last quarter. So again, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Stuart. And again, we note the risk management report. Are there any questions from anybody? Because we seem to be on a very good roll today, Stuart. I think that must be you making an extremely good job of things. No hands I can see on the screen, which means thank you very much. We note the report, and yeah, that is it. Thank you very much, Stuart. Much appreciated. No further questions. Report noted. And that brings us to the last item on our agenda, which are the dates of future meetings. Now, our next meeting is on October the 16th for your diaries. And then we're going into the new year, 5th of February, 9th of April, 30th of July, 15th of October. And Angie, I'm sure, will circulate those dates electronically. Yeah. There are no other items as marked as urgent, and it only remains for me to say thank you to everybody, officers and members, and Stuart for substituting. Thank you for attending. Have a lovely day. Enjoy the sunshine. And I declare this meeting closed.